We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Okay, so picture this. You're at your Oscars watch party, right? Everyone is making predictions about who is going to win what.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you just casually drop some, insider knowledge.
Yeah.
That makes you, the most informed person in the room.
Right.
Something that no one else does.
I like it.
That's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
We're going to decode, all of the internet's obsession with the 2025 Oscars.
Okay.
And this is going to give you that insider edge so you can be that person at the party.
Love it.
We've got a mountain of data, search data, trending topics.
Yeah.
Basically, we have the digital pulse of what everyone is buzzing about online.
I love this. It's like we're tapping into the collective hive mind of movie fans
Right.
everywhere. And what's so fascinating to me is right off the bat how practical everyone is being.
Okay.
There are tons of searches for Oscars 2025 time.
Makes sense.
Where to watch. Even Oscars live stream. People are already planning out how they're going to tune in.
Yeah, it's not just about the awards themselves.
Right.
But it's the whole viewing experience.
Right.
The Oscars have become this global event.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets interesting to me, at least amongst all of these very practical searches.
Yeah.
A real mystery emerges.
Uh-oh.
The phrase, a complete unknown,
Interesting.
is popping up everywhere.
Okay.
What do you make of that?
That's a puzzle. It could be a movie title.
Yeah.
But I actually wonder if it's more of a sentiment, are people hoping for a surprise upset this year?
Okay.
Someone completely off the radar who sweeps the awards.
Interesting.
Now that would make things interesting.
Ooh, a dark horse nominee coming out of nowhere.
I love it.
To steal the show, I love that it would be glued to my screen. It's like the ultimate underdog story.
Yeah.
And speaking of intrigue, another phrase that keeps popping up is the brutalist.
Okay.
Again, no clear context, just a name that's generating a lot of buzz.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's trending without any explanation could mean that it's a controversial film that's sparking, both praise and criticism online.
Okay.
So maybe we're looking at a polarizing masterpiece that's dividing audiences and critics.
Interesting.
And that would definitely put it on the map for a potential nomination.
For sure. It's like a film shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
So it makes it even more alluring.
Right.
Now, while we're on the topic of names, there's one more that is really piquing my interest.
Okay.
And that is Amelia Perez.
Amelia Perez.
Any ideas who she might be?
Actress, director, composer.
I don't know.
The searches alone don't give us much
Nothing.
to go on.
Yeah, it's almost as if the Academy is deliberately dropping these
Right.
breadcrumbs of information
Yes.
to keep us guessing.
Absolutely. And it's working.
Right.
But, while these mysteries are fun to unpack, let's not forget the core
The reason for this season.
of the Oscars, those best of categories.
Yes. You're right. We're seeing tons of searches for Best Picture nominees 2025.
Of course.
Best Supporting Actress, Best Actor, you name it.
Yep.
People clearly want to be in the know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even get a jump on their predictions.
Right.
I can already picture office Oscar pools heating up.
Exactly. And, speaking of predictions, one really intriguing detail we're seeing is a surge in searches for Hulu free trial.
What?
It seems like some folks are hoping to catch all the glamour
Oh, sneaky.
without breaking the bank.
I love that. Who doesn't love a good freebie?
Right.
Especially for an event like this.
Exactly.
But this also points to a larger trend.
What's that?
The rise of streaming and how it's changing the way that we experience the Oscars.
Okay.
It's no longer just about gathering around the TV.
Okay. It's about accessibility and choice.
Yeah.
People want to watch on their own terms,
Yes.
on their own devices.
Exactly.
And streaming services are catering to that.
Sure.
And this shift toward streaming could have a major impact on viewership
Yeah.
and maybe even influence the types of films that get nominated in the future.
Wow, that's a fascinating point.
Yeah.
It's not just about the awards themselves, but how the whole landscape of filmmaking and viewing is evolving.
Exactly.
But let's get back to the buzz surrounding The Brutalist for a moment.
Okay.
What if this film ends up being the front runner.
Right.
But it's also subject to calls for a boycott.
Oh.
Due to some controversial element.
Now, that would be a twist.
Well.
It would definitely add another layer of complexity
Yeah.
to the whole awards season narrative.
For sure.
Yeah.
The Oscars have always been about more than just the films themselves.
Right.
It's like they're a reflection of our culture, our values, and the conversations that are happening in society at the time.
For sure.
It's like a microcosm of everything,
Yeah.
all playing out on this grand stage.
I love that.
And speaking of grand stages, we can't forget about the individual stories behind all of these films
Right.
and the nominations.
Of course.
Remember Emilia Perez?
Yeah.
What if she is this year's breakout star?
Oh.
Someone who goes from relative obscurity to Oscar nominee overnight.
I like it. That would certainly fit with the whole complete unknown narrative, wouldn't it?
Right.
It's those unexpected stories, the underdog triumphs that make the Oscars so captivating.
Yeah.
You know, it gives hope to aspiring filmmakers and actors everywhere.
Right.
Proving that anything is possible.
It's the magic of Hollywood, the idea that dreams can come true.
Exactly.
Before we get too caught up in the fairy tale,
Uh-oh.
there's a potentially darker side to all of this buzz.
What are you talking about?
You're talking about the whispers of a possible boycott.
Oh, yeah.
The online chatter suggesting that this year's Oscars might face some backlash.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
We're seeing these hints of controversy brewing, and it could have major implications for the entire event.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
It seems there are some concerns about representation and inclusivity,
Okay.
with some feeling that the nominees don't fully reflect the diversity of
Right.
voices and experiences
Yeah.
within the film industry.
That raises a really important question. Are the Oscars truly representative
Good question.
of the world that we live in?
It's a valid concern for sure.
Yeah, and one that deserves further exploration.
Right.
I mean, award shows like the Oscars hold immense cultural power.
They do.
They shape perceptions, influence trends, and have the ability to amplify marginalized voices.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And while the Academy has made some efforts to diversify its membership and broaden its scope,
Yeah.
there's a feeling that more needs to be done.
I see.
You know, this potential boycott really highlights the ongoing conversation
For sure.
about representation in Hollywood and the need for greater inclusivity both in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that the Oscars aren't just about glitz and glamour. They're also a reflection of our values and priorities as a society. And sometimes those values come into conflict,
Yeah.
leading to debate, controversy, and even calls for change.
This potential boycott definitely adds a layer of tension
Yeah.
and intrigue to this year's Oscars.
For sure.
Will it gain momentum?
Right.
Will it impact viewership?
Yeah.
And will it lead to meaningful change within the industry?
These are all questions worth pondering as we delve deeper into this world of Oscar buzz. We've uncovered the internet's obsessions, the mysteries, the potential for triumph and controversy. But before we go any further, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far and see where this deep dive takes us next.
Sounds good. It's so interesting how all of these whispers of a potential boycott, you know, are like intertwined with the buzz surrounding certain films.
Right.
Like take The Brutalist, for example.
Okay.
What if this movie, you know, that's generating all this online chatter becomes like a focal point of the debate?
That would definitely put it in the spotlight.
Right.
Imagine like a film that is both a critical darling
Yeah.
and or source of controversy.
Right.
Talk about must-see TV.
For sure.
It would be really interesting to see how the Academy navigates
Yeah.
a situation like that.
Absolutely. It raises the question of whether the Oscars, you know, should solely celebrate artistic achievement
Okay.
or also consider like a film's social and cultural impact.
Right.
I mean, it's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah. Here.
But, you know, while The Brutalist might be sparking debate, remember Emilia Perez?
Oh, yeah. What about her?
What if her potential nomination becomes like a symbol of positive change?
Okay.
Like a sign that Hollywood is embracing these new voices and
Yeah.
perspectives.
Now, that would be a powerful statement.
Right.
It would show that even amidst controversy, you know, there's still room for celebration, for recognizing like talent and achievement.
Yeah.
That might have been overlooked in the past. You know, it would definitely give weight to that idea of a complete unknown,
Yeah.
whether it's a person or a film, you know, that they could totally steal the show this year.
It's those unexpected wins The moments that like defy predictions,
Right.
that make the Oscars so compelling.
Yeah.
Imagine the buzz if Amelia Perez, a newcomer,
Yeah.
wins, against more established names.
Totally.
It would be a victory, not just for her, but for everyone who's ever felt
Right.
underestimated or overlooked.
It would be a good reminder that the Oscars are more than just an award ceremony.
Yeah.
It's like a platform for stories,
Mm-hmm.
for voices that deserve to be heard.
For sure.
And speaking of voices, let's loop back to those how-to-watch searches for a second.
Okay.
What do you think those searches tell us about the audience's mindset
Yeah.
going into this year's Oscars?
I think it really speaks to the anticipation, the excitement
Yeah.
that surrounds this event. Even with the potential for controversy, people are eager to tune in,
Right.
to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
The Oscars are a cultural touchstone, like a
Right.
shared experience that brings people together,
Right.
even if it's to debate the merits of The Brutalist or to champion the rise of Amelia Perez.
Totally. It's like a collective viewing party
Exactly.
with everyone weighing in, sharing their opinions,
Right.
maybe even placing some bets.
Placing some bets. I love it.
Speaking of bets, I am curious to see how those best of categories shake out.
Yeah.
Are there any early frontrunners based on the search data?
It's still early to say for sure,
Okay.
but we are seeing some patterns emerge.
Like what?
For example, searches for Best Picture nominees are dominated by like a mix of big budget blockbusters
Okay.
and those smaller independent films.
Interesting.
So it kind of suggests this potential battle between like spectacle and substance,
I see.
a clash between Hollywood's, established players
Yeah.
and those up-and-coming filmmakers who are like pushing the boundaries.
That is like a classic Oscars showdown.
Right.
It's always so fascinating to see which films resonate with audiences
Yeah.
and critics alike.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on the topic of trends,
Okay.
remember those searches for Hulu free trial?
Yes.
I wonder if that signifies like a shift in viewing habits.
Okay.
Are more people opting for streaming services over like traditional cable?
It's certainly a possibility.
Yeah,
Streaming has become so increasingly popular in recent years,
for sure.
offering like convenience and accessibility that traditional cable can't always match.
Right.
And this shift could have implications for the Oscars viewership numbers
Okay.
and might even influence the Academy's decision-making process in the
Oh.
future.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
It's not just about like who wins the awards,
Right.
but how this entire ecosystem of filmmaking and viewing is evolving.
Exactly.
And speaking of evolution, I'm curious to see how this conversation around representation
Yes.
unfolds.
Yeah.
Will those whispers of a boycott grow louder?
Right.
Will the Academy address these concerns?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a
Mhm.
delicate balancing act for the Academy.
Yeah.
They want to celebrate artistic excellence
Oh.
while also acknowledging the importance of inclusivity
Mm.
and reflecting the diversity of the film industry.
For sure.
How they navigate this will undoubtedly shape the narrative
Yeah.
of this year's Oscars.
It's a good reminder that the Oscars aren't just about entertainment.
Right.
They're a cultural barometer reflecting the values and conversations happening in our society.
For sure.
And while we might be drawn in by the glamour and
Yeah.
the anticipation,
Right.
it's important to engage critically with the event
I agree.
and consider the bigger picture.
Absolutely. The Oscars are more than just a night of awards and speeches.
Yeah.
They're a reflection of who we are
Mm-hmm.
and what we value.
Yes.
They have the power to spark debate, challenge norms,
Agreed.
and inspire change.
For sure.
And as we continue our deep dive
Yeah.
into this year's buzz, it's crucial to remember that context.
You're absolutely right. The Oscars aren't just about predicting the winners
Right.
or enjoying the spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
They're about engaging with the art of filmmaking
Exactly.
and recognizing its impact on our culture.
yes.
And as we delve further into the potential controversies
Right.
and the triumphs of this year's event,
Mhm.
it's that deeper understanding
Yes.
that will make the experience truly rewarding.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about The Brutalist, we've talked about Amelia Perez,
Yeah.
and this looming question of representation at this year's show.
Right.
It feels like this year's Oscars are going to be more than just a celebration of film.
Yeah.
It's shaping up to be a real cultural moment.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's
Yeah.
not just about, which film takes home Best Picture, but it's about, like, the
Yeah.
conversations that those films spark. Will The Brutalist be lauded for its artistry, despite the potential controversy?
Yeah.
Will Emilia Perez's story become, like, an emblem of progress?
Right.
These are the narratives that will play out beyond the awards themselves.
And that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating.
I agree.
It's like, we're not just looking at search terms.
Yeah.
We're really getting a glimpse into the values and, like, the debates that are shaping the film world right now.
Exactly.
Remember how we talked about the rise of streaming earlier?
Mm-hmm.
What if that becomes like a major theme this year?
Right.
Maybe a streaming-only film wins big,
Okay.
signaling a real power shift in Hollywood.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
The lines between, like, traditional cinema and streaming are blurring.
Yeah.
And the Oscars are right at the center of that.
Right in the middle.
Evolution.
Yeah, it would be quite a statement if a film that, bypassed traditional theatrical release
Totally.
ended up taking home the top prize.
I think so, too.
It would definitely signal a changing of the guard.
Yeah.
As we've been discussing all these, like, potential scenarios, it strikes me that a complete unknown could be more than just, like, a person or film.
Right.
Maybe it's a concept.
Okay.
Like the idea that this year's Oscars could be full of surprises, twists that we can't even predict right now.
I love that interpretation.
Yeah.
It leaves room for the unexpected.
Right.
The kind of moments that make live events like this so captivating.
Yes.
Maybe it's a new category that emerges.
Right.
Maybe it's like a groundbreaking technical achievement that steals the show.
Yeah.
Or a speech that goes viral and sets social media ablaze.
Oh my gosh, the possibilities are really endless.
I know.
And that sense of the unknown, that, like, anything can happen energy.
Right.
That's really what makes the Oscars more than just an awards ceremony.
Exactly.
It's a cultural phenomenon that reflects our collective fascination with stories, with the power of film to, like, move us, challenge us, and connect us.
Exactly. And as you get ready to watch the 2025 Oscars, think about it this way.
Okay.
You're not just observing, you're participating in a moment.
Wow.
That captures the zeitgeist.
I like that.
Pay attention to the narratives that emerge, the debates that unfold,
Yeah.
and the surprises that keep you glued to your screen.
Because in the end, the Oscars are more than just a competition.
Right.
They're a reflection of who we are, what we value, and where the world of film is heading.
Today is your lucky day. Today is the day that our $3 website works for you, paying you directly to your PayPal daily. Imagine $3 ongoing continuous payments to your PayPal account. Imagine falling asleep and waking up to $300 in your PayPal account. How would this make you feel? How could this help you? What bills could you pay? What kind of fun could you have? What does that retirement look like now? All for a one-time payment of $3. This website is DFY done for you, fully built and completely hosted, and never stops collecting payments for you. You have spent $3 on coffee on a regular, but that coffee won't help you create multiple streams of income. Click the link below.